Hey, everybody, it's Dr. Angela Cudger, and we are back with our next universal law of success. Tonight, we are going to be covering the law of perpetual transmutation of energy. Remember, the information that I share with you tonight and in any of the live streams are timeless. Hey, Miss Martin, thank you for jumping on here. As soon as you jump on here, let me know that you can hear me. Let me know that you can see me, and we're going to get into the content. Hey, Ruby Angela Jones, I love that name. Thank you for being here tonight. We're going to continue our series on the universal laws of success. As with everything, wherever you find massive, consistent success, you will always find someone living inside of the universal laws. Those of you who are watching me over on IG, we have slides. There is information where you can follow along, and there's content where you can be a part of the full discussion over on Facebook and over on some other places. And so, if you want to join us, you can go to legacy wellnesstribe.com. It'll drop you right into the Facebook group, and you'll be able to follow along with the slides. Now, at the end of tonight, I will be sharing with you an incantation or prayer that you can use to begin to transmute energy. Tonight, this law that we're covering, the universal law that we're covering, is called the superpower law, and it is called that law for a reason. Okay. Great evening, Ray J over on Facebook. Thank you so much for being here. If you haven't already yet, make sure you share this out. Okay, so that someone else can get to this information. Hey, Life New Journey, thank you for being here. Hey, Caramel Beauty, thank you for being here as well. And Melanated Sun, beautiful handle. Thank you for being here as well. All right, as soon as you share it out, make sure you hit shared in the comments, and let someone else make sure someone else gets this information. Okay. And so when we're covering these laws, I love, let me just say this, okay, because I have been in such a divine place since I started actually sharing the universal laws. I've known about the universal laws for years, but this is my first time actually teaching and sharing them as a trained metaphysician. And so I have been just in a state of perpetual joy and a state of just perpetual gratitude for being able to get to share this kind of information at this time on the planet right now. And so, for any of you guys who are joining me, know that you are, as we covered last night, we are one divine collective. And as we share this kind of energy, this can affect your life, and this can affect manifestations and change and hasten manifestations and changes in your life as well. So that is also another reason to share this out. There are a lot of people who need this information. They specifically need this law tonight. They specifically need the prayer that we're going to do at the end of this. Okay. So if you want to be able to screenshot that prayer, you want to be in Facebook, or you want to be somewhere where we're live other than IG. Okay. Because you guys can't see the screen. All right. And so you want to be able to screenshot that and keep it for yourself. Now, also, the other thing that I want to say is you can get this incantation. I will be sending out the prayer at the end of this, that we do at the end of this, you guys. I will be sending that out via text as well. And so if you want that incantation or prayer or that petition, and you also want daily affirmations, or you want digital recipe cards and all kinds of things from me, you want to make sure that you text me directly at 404-738-6301. That's 404-738-6301. All right, let's get ready. Besides that, the only other thing I'm going to say, because I say it every night, Legacy has cohort 33. Enrollment for cohort 33 is open, and grants are available. If you don't have access to a well-trained holistic health coach in your family, it is imperative that you look at this course or a course like it, so that someone in your family is a well-trained health coach and they have this information to offer everyone. Okay. If you don't have this information, or if you are someone who is interested in it, you must reach us at discoverlegacy.info. There is space still available in cohort 33. There are grants available for cohort 33 only. Once cohort 33 is filled, no more grants will be allowed at this time. Okay. So I hope that you guys reach out to us and get into the program. All right, you guys, let's jump into the content. When we're looking at this tonight, and we're looking at the universal laws of success. One of the things we want to be aware of is that universal laws, there are several of them. We are covering 12 different universal laws. Depending on where you learn, depending on what teaching you look at, some people say there's only 7 universal laws. Some people say there are only 10. Some people cover 11. Just know that the main laws of success, there are 12 different laws, okay? And so when we're looking at this tonight, we are going to be covering the superpower law. And that law is the law of perpetual transmutation of energy. I love this law. And you're going and I think you're going to absolutely love this law as well. Okay. Like I said, with all other universal laws, we'll be covering also law of polarity, the law of gender. We covered the law of inspired action last night. So if you missed that and you want to go watch it, you can watch the replay. I didn't get to go live on IG last night because I was switching SIM cards and phones and all that stuff last night in a new device. But that is available if you're watching on IG. That is available on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and any other place you can find us going live. That replay is there, so you guys still have access to it. Okay. And so we'll be going over the rest of these laws as well. I hate for this series to end because it's been so magical. And one of the things I'm thinking about doing is adding and compiling all these videos together and putting them in a format for you guys to continue your studies. So if that is something that you want to do, and it's a place where you can log on to off of social media, we can share content on social media, but I'm very leery of that. Okay. And so at some point, you'll almost always see me draw that content offline in some kind of way. So if you want that information going forward and you think having it at a place where you can log in off of social media would be better, y'all let me know that in the comments, and I'm happy to create that for you as well. All right. Hey, Dr. Ellaby, thank you for joining us over on Instagram. All right, you guys, let's jump into the law of perpetual transmutation of energy. This is a universal law that, like I said, when we're looking at universal laws, they are immutable, they are unchanging, and these are laws that govern our universe. Okay, these are laws that govern our universe. And so when we're looking at these laws, like I said, every single time you find massive, consistent, evolving, expanding success, you will always find someone living squarely inside of the laws. Okay, they may not know it, but when they sit down and think about it, they can backtrack how they willed certain things into existence. How, whether it's a good situation or a bad situation or a challenge in life, or they've had an easy life, right? Like I know people that have had like an easy life, and they've always had an easy life mindset. They've always been the type that's like, oh, well, it'll be just fine, right? And so they're the ones that never had any kind of anxiety or nervousness about anything. These are people that intuitively allow themselves to live inside of the law with ease and grace. And so when we're talking about transmutation of perpetual transmutation of energy, right? And we're going to talk about how we align this with the law of correspondence and what that looks like when we align those two together and they work in tandem for us to change our situations immediately, right? And so when we're looking at this, everyone says, well, okay, I'll make sure I figure out a way to get you guys the content offline, right? But when we're looking at this, okay, when we're looking at the law of perpetual transmutation, one of the things we want to be aware of is that this law states that energy is neither created nor destroyed. Energy is in a constant state of moving. It is transmuting or it is transferring, right? This is why we're always responsible for the kind of energy we allow around us and the things that we allow people to speak over us or into us, right? Because energy in us is always shifting, always changing. We talked about this with the law of vibration early on in this series, and we talked about this also with the law of attracting. We are constantly in a state of acquiring. We are constantly in a state of attracting. We are constantly putting out information to the universe, and thought forms are creating. And some of us, depending on how well established and strong we are in our thought processes, we are in just this constant state of constantly manifesting in a very rapid way. And so we want to make sure that we are aware of this when we're looking at the law of perpetual transmutation of energy. And it says that everything's always in motion. And this continuous metamorphosis, it never stops. It never stops. And everything is always changing and nothing stays constant. Now, this is different from the law of rhythm. Remember, the law, who can tell me in the comments, what's the difference between this and things always changing, and the difference between and that and the law of rhythm, where there's ups and downs, right? And you should never count yourself out because of the law of rhythm. But what is the main difference? Can anybody tell me who's been watching every night? We got a lot of people who've been tuning in every night. So if you can tell me that in the comments, let me know what the main difference between these two laws are. Because when you understand the difference between these, you're going to understand fully how to use them both. The law of rhythm, that says things are up, down, right? Up, down, ebbs and flows, right? In and out, tide goes in and out, right? High tide, low tide, right? Valleys and peaks in our lives, right? So when we're looking at the law of rhythm, what's the main difference between that and this law right here? Perpetual transmutation of energy, where things are always changing, always shifting, always evolving. Who can tell me that in the comments? And it's pretty simple, but if someone could tell me that, that would be great, and I'll share with you guys what it is as well. But when we're looking at this particular law, this is called the superpower law because of a couple of concepts that I'm going to share with you tonight. And I'm going to actually, at the end, like I said, I'm going to share with you an incantation, a prayer that you can keep and say if you are someone that knows that you're in a constant state of change, but you can't seem to, or you find it challenging to get your thoughts to shift as fast as you'd like them to. That is what that prayer is for, right? It's to shift you relatively quickly, right? And so when we're talking about the main difference between this and the law of rhythm governs things that only go from one place to the next, but they stay the same in that way, right? So Tiffany Taft says the law of rhythm is a season, a moment, a change given what is happening at that moment. Exactly, right? And the law of rhythm, she says with the law of rhythm, it has it has a back and forth status, right? It has more like a left and right status. Spring, summer, winter, fall, without fail. We will never skip spring, right? We will never skip fall. We will never skip winter, right? Just as sure as you live in Chicago, winter is coming, right? The law of rhythm states that, right? It cannot always rain, right? At some point, the sun must come out. The sun comes up, the moon comes up, right? And so that's the law of rhythm. So excellent, Jennifer. Excellent, Tiffany. That's the difference. The law of perpetual transmutation of energy is different. It is different in the fact that it can skip certain things. You can skip certain steps. You can transmute a lack into wealth. You can transmute these things and skip steps. You can quantum leap. That is why this is called the superpower law, right? So think about this one as left, right, up, down, northwest, southwest, northeast, southeast, right? Think of it that way versus the law of rhythm just being left and right. Got it? And those things never changing. You have an infinite number of ways you can transmute energy and create by using the law of perpetual transmutation. Okay. That's the biggest difference, right? The law of rhythm governs things that only go certain ways and they never, ever change in that way. We're not going to add a season, right? We're not going to add another solstice, right? It's only going to be, winter solstice and summer solstice. We're not going to add another one. It's just always going to be those, versus the law of transmutation says it could be anything we want it to be. And that's why it's considered the superpower law. Okay. Let me know that you guys understand that in the comments. So let me know. You say I understand, if you understand the difference between these two, because you're going to learn how to use these in tandem. Because when you're in a valley state, You're going to learn how to transmutate that energy to get you back to your peak state. And then when you're at your peak state, you're going to learn how to take inspired action to stay there as long as possible so that you store up for the next valley, right? So you're going to learn how to strategically live inside of these laws one at a time, but then you're going to also understand how to use them all at the same time, right? I like to call it like the double Dutch method, right? Both ropes turning at once. And you know how a person just kind of jumps into double Dutch and they're just going, right? That's how you want to be able to use these laws. They want to feel seamless to you, right? Like you're just inside of that rhythm and you stay there, okay? So when we're looking at this law, let's look at a few things. And I'm actually going to cover some specific things about this law that govern health, wealth, and that govern destiny and relationships and things like that. So everyone said they understand. I understand. Okay, great. So when we're looking at this, this is also known as the superpower law. Keep that in mind, right? Remember, the grandfather of all laws is law of cause and effect, right? And then we have the superpower law, which is this one, where energy cannot be created and it cannot be destroyed, but it can always change and shift and transmute. A great example of this would be water. Who can point out in the comments how many different forms have you seen water in? Let me know that in the comments. Who can name the most forms they've seen water in? We know we've seen it in droplet form. We know we've seen it in mist. We've seen it in steam. We've seen it in cloud form. We've seen it in like rushing water form. We've seen it in ice form. How many forms of water can you point out? Water is an excellent example of this law of transmutation. Wherever water flows, it can change its state, right? And so you, as a human being, with your higher thought faculties, with your ability to realize emotions and different emotional states, this gives you access to this superpower law. And this gives you access to the ability to be like water in so many different forms anytime, right? Anytime you decide to change your state, you can do that. That's this law. It's designed for you to win, okay? It's designed for you to win no matter what. And so when she says, Ray J says, we are fluid too. Yes, Tiffany says it's a whole vibe. It absolutely is. This is also another reason, and I think we talked about how you use elements to change the energy in your space. This is almost always why you want to have something with some kind of running water in your space, or you want to have water in something, whether it's water in plants, whether it's water in a diffuser with essential oils, you want to have the different elements in your space or at some point in your space. So for example, and we can, go over this like in another live stream, but if you're someone where you live in a house where it's mostly wood, the floors are wooden, the beams in the ceiling are wooden, you got to balance it out with things like glass, with metal, with some other elements. You've got to bring some other elements inside to balance out the energy of the space and make it holistic. You're someone who lives in a completely glass place, got to balance it out with steel or with some metal or with some wood or with something else to bring the other elements into the house, and then add light to the house in the form of plants, add water to the house in the form of a fountain or something that will balance out the elements and the energy of whatever space you spend the most time in, right? And for most people, that's their home, that may be their office, that may be their bedroom, right? So you want to make sure that whatever space you're spending all this time in, you have it set up to that way, right? So she says wood takes all the moisture out of the space. It does. And so it's important that we balance it out. That's why you always see wood look really, really rich and pretty with like bright green plants, or you see it look with something that's alive, right? So when we're talking about this, energy can't be created or destroyed. We can transform any energetic state into something else. And it doesn't matter what we want to transform it into, we get to be able to do that. There is so much free will concerning the universal laws that it can be just sickeningly easy to manifest things. And I think, dare I say, that the human being finds it so simple that they must question it, that they must create some form of resistance. Otherwise, we'd have more people manifesting the life of their dreams and living out loud while manifesting that, right? But instead, we have so many people that live in fear, so many people that attract more fearful opportunities and situations to them, that they don't understand that what is innate for them is a life of ease, a life of abundance, a life of whatever they could possibly think of and feel good inside of. The universe, infinite intelligence, wants to express that through them. And so when we're going over these laws, this law is a superpower law, and it's the easiest law to actually activate and do, right? And it's the law that then helps us shift our vibration. It's also the law that helps us shift our shift what we attract to ourselves. Or if we've been attracting something that we don't like, shift immediately what we attract, because we can transmute the energy around us into something else just by the way that we feel. So it's like, if you're angry, go to the gym and work out. Transmute that energy into something that is going to respond and pour something back into you. Longevity, strength, right? Peace, right? You're going to want to shift the energy that is happening to you, or whatever is going on with you, into something else that hopefully will increase your use value too, but something that you can actually use right away. That is this law. And that is the reason why this law is the easiest of all laws to get to work for you. Okay. And so when we're looking at this, it says it always exists. Excuse me. It always exists, even when you can't see it. And we move through the different forms of energy to our benefit. And that's the one thing we want to make sure that we're understanding, is that we have this law to be able to move through and use whenever we want to. And the universe made this one so simple that anyone can pick up on it today, tomorrow, and it doesn't matter what state they're in. They can shift that state. Okay. So one of the things we want to know is that when that life doesn't happen by chance, it happens by what we choose to think. And it happens by this law, by change, by things shifting for us, having something that we can think about and shift immediately. That is why we have this law. And so it says we have the ability to transform the negative emotions within us to give us the power to change our lives. And that I have to like smile about this, because that's the absolute beauty of this law, that no matter where you are, no matter what you think your reality is, all you have to do is speak and it will shift. All you have to do is speak, and all you have to do is feel what you are speaking, and it will begin to shift, right? And then we can take inspired action on back of that. So real quick to the comment, she says, I read sexual desire is the strongest desire and can be transmuted. It sure can be transmuted. Most people are at the animalistic level when focused the same desire, birth creativity. Absolutely. I always say that reproductive organs hold so much energy in men and women. It's a fact, but especially in women who can grow and who can take a seed, grow it, multiply it, have multiple births at once, right? And be able to then create another being so powerful enough to be able to live inside these laws. And so when we're looking at this, another I think that the transmutation that you're talking about, Shalita, the first time I heard it mentioned, and I'm sure it's been mentioned before this as well, there's two books: The Tao of Sexology, which we actually have in Legacy. You get a copy of that book. And then it is also in Think and Grow Rich. Napoleon Hill also mentions the perpetual transmutation of energy to create money. He mentions it. And a lot of people glaze past that and look at everything else he's saying without understanding, if I withhold my sexual desire, I can turn it into money. I can turn it into something else. So there's a lot of people who don't yet understand this law, right? It's Think and Grow Rich, right? So there's a lot of people who don't necessarily understand this law, and they go out and squander this energy. I don't know any other way to say it, right? They squander it by sleeping around. They squander it by doing some other things, watching porn and doing other things, not knowing that that's your money. Like, that's your wealth right there. I don't care how else you move. You're still squandering that energy if you're not using it properly. So much creative energy comes down to sexual desire and the ability to transmute that energy, right? Also, love is the highest vibration. And so anytime love is also involved in something and the transmutation of that begins to happen, right? That's where you can get into like some different kinds of magic that are available to us as well. Alchemy that's available to us that people just aren't aware of, or if they are aware of it, they're not using it to its greatest advantage. Okay. And so I digress. And so when we're looking at this, we want to make sure that we understand that any form of energy can be transmutated, but the highest forms of energy have the least resistance. The highest forms of energy, and this is why things like sexual desire usually has the least resistance. Most people can just roll right into it, right? It usually has the greatest forms of energy that can be transmuted and that can quickly hasten manifestation, or are those energies that bring complete bliss, and those energies that have no resistance. Love or unconditional love is typically a result of no fear, of something or someone being fearless. Having unconditional love for yourself makes every fear fall away. Face any situation that you're afraid of with unconditional love, and you'll find there's no situation to face. It is the law, right? So anytime there is absolute bliss, there is great desires, there is emotion attached to it, right? And in addition to that, anytime there is complete love and there is no resistance, that is the highest energy you could take to transmute and hasten your manifestations, right? She says, yes, it's in their loins, right? And so we intuitively feel these things and we know these things. So it's about using everything you have to your benefit, to your advantage, right? And so when we're continuing to look at this, another thing that we want to be aware of is that emotions are energy in motion. I want to take the time to say a little bit about this because we want to make sure we're taking an active role in our emotional regulation, right? If we are at a state where we just, how many of you guys in the comments have seen someone every time you can calculate them, you know they're going to go off, right? If something doesn't go their way, they're going to go completely off. I've done it, right? I probably still do it sometimes, depending on the thing. I try not to. I try to be emotionally aware, but I am an ascending fire sign. So I can, at the most, I am a Cancerian. So loving, giving, right? Caring for everyone else, right? And my ascendant though is Leo. And so I think that extroversion, that little bit of extroversion in me, right? So someone says it shows in my face, right? I've gotten better with my face, with saying, oh, I think that's, with having like that same kind of, wow, I think that's great, and it can be the worst thing in the world, and so I've gotten better at controlling my face, and I've gotten better at regulating my emotions over the years. I think in my earlier years and even in my 30s, I just had a lot of fire and anger, right? And the majority of it stemmed from fear of losing out, fear of lack, fear of not being enough, fear of coming through this lifetime and not accomplishing anything. Although I've always been a high achiever, multiple degrees, always in school for something, I still, back of it, those things were led by fear. Those things were led by not being able to have what I need or not feeling like I would be great enough, right? And so they ended up working for my destiny, but at the same time, I'm now more aware of my emotions and where these things are stemming from. And I choose high achievement for what I can bring to the planet as a result of it, not because of what I'm afraid of, right? And so when we're looking at this, we want to make sure that we're emotionally aware of who we are and how we operate and how we regulate our emotions. We never, because of this law, you never want to suppress your emotions. You never want to be it's 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 easy to kind of disrupt and or erupt, not disrupt, but erupt and then cause a disruption. But it's easy to erupt emotionally and let things out. We intuitively want to do it. Most of us want to do it, right? But there's a lot of us that choke back our emotions. And because of this law, you should never do that. You must find a way to regulate your emotions properly, right? And then be able to effectively communicate to the universe. Here's what I'd like to see instead. That makes me angry. And I'm going to be upfront and honest about that. That pisses me off, right? And I'm not going to hide it. But here's what I'd like to do moving forward, right? And so we must be aware of how we feel, express that thing with some regulation, right? Right? Regulating it properly. But we must not ever put ourselves in a state where it's okay. I won't say anything. I'll just be nice. I'll be nice, but you will know exactly where I stand concerning a thing, right? And I don't wait until later to do that. You know, if I need to pull a person to the side, I'm going to, because I need to keep my energy moving along. I understand the laws. You know, I don't intend to have an emotional outburst and make a person feel uncomfortable. That's not how I am anyway. But if I need to say something, I'm going to say, hey, do you have a moment? Can we chat really quick? Right? And so I just want to be clear on how I'm feeling in this moment. I want to be clear on our understanding of one another moving forward, right? And so, if you're someone who hasn't gotten to that place yet, meaning you still erupt, or you're someone who is choking back your emotions because you just want to keep everything cool. You just want to lay low, fly under the radar, right? This law says stop that immediately. Stop that immediately, because all we're doing is transmuting that energy back into attracting more people to treat us in a way that makes us choke down our emotions, right? And so I'm gonna run to the comments really quick. She says, it shows on my face. Yeah, it used to be on mine too. She says, inner work will show us why we fire off. It absolutely will. Someone says, I'm not sure how to regulate properly. We're gonna talk about that tonight. And the prayer that I'm gonna share with you at the end should start to help you to move things along. And so she says, I'm a Sag. Uh-oh. Sometimes my mouth moves faster than my mind, but it's always true and have no regrets. Yeah. And I'm glad that you mentioned this because we have, if you're someone who doesn't necessarily follow zodiac signs or anything like that, the majority of us carry a lot of the different traits in our zodiac sign. And sometimes it's beneficial to look at those things so that you know what your possible tendencies concerning how you relate to other people may be, right? And so someone says trying to keep the peace. Yes, trying to keep the peace. So like I know as my sign, like as a Cancerian, I'm very caring, and I had to learn to understand how to let my ascending, like my Leo sign, come out when it needs to, so that I could be assertive in business, right? So that I could run a company without people running over me, right? Without people blindly taking from me, and not being afraid to do that, and not choking back my emotions and saying, well, but at least we're helping people. No, we're not. We're teaching them to continue to steal from us. That's what we're teaching them to do, right? So I'm going to put some teeth in this thing to let people know that I'm not here to be treated that way, and that's one of the journeys for a Cancerian, right? That's one of our journeys, to know that, like, we have such high value. Cancerians are the mothers of the zodiac, right? We'll let our kids get away with anything. And so because we want to protect, we want to love, we want to nurture, but sometimes if Cancerians aren't careful, it's to their detriment, right? And one of the lessons they come to this lifetime to learn is just that: how to stand up for themselves, how to speak up sooner, right? It took me years to speak up sooner about something. And so it would be, well, I didn't say anything this week, maybe I'll say something next week, but at least I said something. Now it's like, in this moment, I need to talk to you now. I'm not waiting. In this moment, right? But I had to grow to that point, right? And not and then also being able to emotionally be aware and regulate my emotions, right? So that I didn't look like the one with the issue, right? Because if people see fool, you arguing with a fool, they don't know if you're the one, the fool, or the other person, right? So we want to be aware of how we conduct ourselves always, right? And Cancerians innately have the ability to say words in a way, even if there's something that a person doesn't want to accept, they will go away and say, you know what, you were right. Now that I've had some time to really let your words sink in, I like how you said that, and you were right about it. Cancerians have that trait, right? Some other signs have that trait too, but Cancerians they can intuit the best way to talk to someone, or the best way to bring information forward, right? Same way a mother would to their child, right? You wouldn't just, erupt on your daughter or your son. You would think before you actually said, I would hope you would think before you said something to them, right? And so when we're looking at this, and when we're thinking about this law comes to teach us this. This law comes to teach us that our emotions matter, and our emotions is the energy, the sum of the energy that we're carrying in a moment, in any given moment, right? In any given moment, right? In any given moment, that energy that we carry with us is in motion based on the emotions that we have, right? And so we want to take an active role in our emotional regulation, and the emotions transmute into form. So all that you're feeling becomes form. Someone put in the comments, everybody put in the comments, everything I'm feeling becomes form. Everything I feel becomes form. Everything I feel becomes form. Everything I feel becomes form. You are walking around in this formless substance that is unseen, unheard, and you are constantly seducing the formless into form. You are constantly calling it forward. It's compelled to form around you. Everything you feel becomes form. And when we're aware of this, and we immediately understand why emotional regulation is so important. Why not holding back what we feel in any relationship is so important. Why speaking up when we feel like we've been wrong is so important. It's so important, right? We are always transmuting and moving energy around, and telling the universe how to treat us, what to give us back, right? Everything I feel becomes form. You're not just calling it forward, you're seducing it. You're seducing the formless into form. Seduction means that you cannot help but to go into something. As much as there is resistance around you, the universe cannot help but be compelled to form the thing that you want. That is its ability. That is your ability for you to seduce the formless into form. That is what we're doing all day long. So we must be aware of we must have emotional intelligence concerning us and concerning other people. Okay. And so never suppress your emotions. Feel it, channel it, transmute them if you have to, respond in kindness, because we are still attracting what we put out. Remember the law of correspondence. When you get mad, somebody's going to mirror that back to you. If you show love, it's kind of challenging for them to try to go off when you're like, well, I mean, I'm sorry about that. So it's kind of challenging for them to continue to stay in that state when you're not responding with the same state, when you're not mirroring back to them that same state, when you respond in kindness, right? That is this law. And so our words charge and change any situation. That's why it's so important that you get this incantation that I'm going to share with you tonight. And then you want to take guidance from the law of correspondence. What am I mirroring back? Remember those questions. What am I feeling most of the time when I see this reflected back to me? Right? What am I feeling most of the time when I see this reflected, when I see this coming back to me? Everybody is our mirror, right? Someone said their ex was a Cancer. He or she was also your mirror, right? And so keep this in mind. Like, everyone is a mirror image of what we are. We only attract who we are. We're not attracting above or below that. We're attracting who we are. So if we're not feeling like we're being treated with the highest, with the greatest, then for some reason we're not exuding that. Something in us is saying, keep that from me, right? So really quick, I'm gonna run to the comments. So she says, everything I feel becomes form. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed, it does. Yes, it does. And so when we're looking at this, she says, yes, expression, yes, it must be clear and it must be calm. Yeah. So have some emotional awareness. And if you don't, then there are things you can say before you respond. And as you move through learning these laws and using these laws, you're going to find that you got to stop and change course. Remember, we talked about that. I think we did it in the law of vibration, you guys, where it says there's something that must trigger you. And that's like an NLP concept as well. You must have something in place to trigger you out of a lower vibration, or out of a vibrational state that you're not comfortable in. For some people, that's picturing a big stop sign before they have their next thought, right? Or when they see their thought patterns go a certain way, they picture something that says, okay, stop, switch course now, right? And so I'm going to give you guys something that you can say when it's time to switch it up, and you don't want to think about how to actually do that. Really quickly, though, I'm going to share some things about health, wealth, and destiny, because these are very important. You want to channel your outer wealth, connections, and abundance to you. So you want to start to call these things into being, whether you're saying them with your words, whether you're feeling in your emotions and your thoughts together and saying them with your words, right? You want to transmute anger into power for like a physical workout. So if you're someone on here and you had challenges losing weight or becoming your fittest or your healthiest and your best self, where does that stem from? Is there something about that brings anger, or that brings fear, or that brings something up? And what emotion is back of it? Because we know we can become anything we want to be. Age doesn't matter. Size doesn't matter. All types of people all over the planet with all kinds of challenges are winning. So none of us can say. We have seen plenty of people that are completely disabled, wheelchair bound, bedridden, that come up with things that change the planet. So none of us can say anything is being kept from us. We can't say that with certainty because the universe just isn't set up that way. Right? And so we must be aware of the emotion that is back of whatever we're lacking, that is back of the thing that causes us, that brings us the most challenges. We must be aware of this. And while we're thinking about this, at that moment, we say, okay, how can I take inspired action to transmute this to something that will put me into my next best place? How can I do that? What do I need to do now? Right? And have the flexibility to allow the universe to inspire you. And then you want to transmute any lack into abundance. So any emotion that you feel concerning what you feel like you don't have an abundance of, you want to start to feel that emotion and then transmute that, shift that energy, your thoughts, the way you feel. That's how you shift this. You change how you feel, right? And for some people, you might say, you know what? Man, that's easier said than done. It's not supposed to be the simplest thing to do. Remember, start with small things. The universe wants you to start with small things so that it's aware that you can handle bigger things, right? Transmute failure into success, transmute valleys into peaks, right? Matter communicates before it is created. I want you to hear me good on this. If you haven't already shared this out, share this out, because somebody's going to want to know this. Matter in all forms, anything physical that is getting ready to come into form, has a means of communicating before it is formed. Matter of all kinds, your skin, your hair, your nails, your body systems, your cellular matter, anything that's getting ready to be created new for the planet, has a means of communication before it is actually created. So when your cells in your body divide, one cell, the cell that it is getting ready to mirror, the cell that exists, and the cell that is getting ready to be into existence have a means of communication. This is quantum physics. This is science. This isn't woo-woo, right? This is anatomy, and this is science, right? Those cells, before they divide, they communicate. What will we be next? If you're a person who says, I am not healed, I have cancer, I have bad knees, I have a bad back, I have poor thinking, I have no sense of judgment. If you are someone who speaks these things in mind, or you speak these things with your mouth to other people, your cells hear that and they take it as the command of what they should be next. Hear me good on this, because in this, you can find infinite wealth in how you live physically, infinite wealth in how your body operates. This is how you see people who had degenerative diseases come all the way back and become something they never even thought they'd be. Because as the cells were dividing, they were able to communicate and say, I'm healed, I'm whole, I'm healthy, I'm above, I'm ahead, I'm winning, I am not ill, I am always healthy, I am always well, right? When someone says or asks me, do you get sick? My response is always, I am always well. I never say, oh no, I don't get sick. I don't even use the word. I'm always well, because I know that my cells are listening and the universe cannot discern whether or not you use the word sick for you or for someone else. So there's certain words that just won't ever come out of my mouth pertaining to me, right? There's a way that I answer things and a way that I say things, and I make sure that I help other people. Like, did you mean to say that? Backtrack. Did you really mean to say that? If you did, it's a limitation that you're going to argue for, and you will absolutely, with universal law, you will unequivocally get to keep that limitation. You will get to keep that limitation. Every single time something comes out of your mouth, I am barely making it. I am struggling. I am this. It's a limitation. The universe says they want to keep it. Let them have it. When they're ready, the laws are here. When they're ready to feel something different, the laws are here. When they're ready to do better, when they're ready to expand, when they're ready to evolve, when they're ready to support a team and not do everything on their own, the laws are here. Nothing is kept from them except what they want to be kept from them. That is how this works. Let me know that you understand this in the comments, because this is also extremely powerful when it comes to someone saying, oh, that disease runs in my family, or that thing runs in my family. Now you know you can transmute energy to make anything like dormant in your DNA, in your family line moving forward. You have the ability to completely stop it. But every single time you say what you say, you lay claim to it for you and everyone else that decides to share your DNA. We got to do it. We got to do it right. We got to do it the right way. We have to be, as a human being, as the only entity with higher thought faculties on this planet, we must step into our brilliance. We must use what is here and what is available to us, all of it. We must release any limitation, anything that says that we should not use it. Run away from it, because these laws are inherent, right? And where you find major success, you will always find someone living in the law. Someone says, I'm guilty of ignorance, I'm claiming illness. Yeah, a lot of people do it. How are you feeling today? Man, I'm exhausted, I'm run down, I'm this and that. You absolutely are. And I say, and so it is. What am I going to say? You haven't asked me to hold space or change anything for you, right? So if you lay claim to it, you get to keep it. In this universe, you absolutely get to carry it for your lifetime until you decide to transmute it into something else. Okay. And then we say, by using power to activate thoughts that serve us, we can transmute negative vibes first into neutral ones. Because there are some people who can't just flip the switch on this. So they must be able to transmute energy into something that is neutral, and then something into a happier vibration, right? She says, can we self-correct in the moment? Suzanne, you're jumping ahead. Can we self-correct in the moment where you catch yourself with a limiting thought? That is what this incantation and this prayer that I'm going to share with you tonight will absolutely do for you, because this is the easiest law to get right. This is the easiest law to change anything in your life, right? To shift it in any kind of way. You must have a way to live within this law that is seamless for you. And what I'm sharing with you, you can use it as soon as you have a thought that you feel like, okay, I need to stop and I need to look at transmuting this. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to shift this so you guys can see it. Let me know that you can see the screen a little bit better, and let me know in the comments that you can see the screen. If you're watching us over on IG, make sure you go to legacywellnesstribe.com, or you can also text us to get this incantation. Okay, let me know that you guys can see this on the screen, and it's a lot bigger. And so if you want to take a screenshot, you can take a screenshot of this. If you want me to text it to you this evening, I can also text this to you this evening. Just I can see it. Okay, I can see it. All right, we can see it. Great. All right. And so when we're looking at this, there are a few things that we need to say when we're trying to shift. Like Suzanne says, like, okay, I'm on this path. How can I course correct? Because I'm having a day and I'm just trying to get this thing right. And so you can always screenshot this, but I can also, like I said, send this to you. I'm going to send this out tonight with the text for anyone who actually wants it. Okay. So instead of the affirmation tonight, you'll get this in text form. Okay. And so you want to say, all is perfect and just within the divine law, and I understand my power here. So in any situation, everything is just and right in divine law. I understand my power even in this situation. That means I understand what I'm working within. I'm working in formless substance that is always changing and shifting around me. And I know that I can seduce the formless into form. I get it. I understand the power that I have here. I now speak the words to transmute my emotional energy of, you can say fear into love. You can say lack into abundance. You can say sickness into health. You can say whatever you want to say to fill in these blanks, right? Sadness into happiness, right? Lack into prosperity, right? Something into peace, whatever you want to use to fill in these blanks. You say those words, and then you say, I now cast this demand on the universe and I go free. That means I understand that as long as I'm living inside of the law and as long as I speak these words, everything has to move and shift to what I say. So this is not a burden I'm going to continue to carry. For every demand on the universe, there is a supply, right? So whatever demand I have, even in this situation, it must be supplied for. So in order for that to happen, I'm going to now detach from this outcome and all fear and worry in this situation. Everything is perfect in the mind of infinite intelligence, and everything is designed for me to prosper. I now move forward with inspired action concerning this situation. That means I'm going to allow myself to be inspired. I'm not going to make a checklist to go get back at somebody, right? I'm not going to do something premeditated, right? And go try to work this out. I just said I'm going to detach myself from it. I understand my power. I'm transmuting this into that, and I'm leaving this thing alone, right? And then I'm going to wait to be inspired on what to do next concerning this. I have made up my mind that this is my truth. That means I'm not going back and forth in my thoughts about how I feel about it. I'm not. If I said I'm transmuting fear into love, I'm going to show up with unconditional love. And I'm going to understand the law of correspondence and knowing that that's got to be reflected back to me, right? The tides have turned to stay. I now let the universe have right of way. And I let this be so, and so it is. So when you are in a situation where you're like, I need to stop, I'm overwhelmed, I don't understand, I don't have all the pieces, but I'm emotionally aware that I'm emotional and I'm not in a state that I like. So let me speak this thing over me and release it. And let me be inspired by infinite intelligence concerning what to do next. You can never go wrong when you speak this truth. You can never go wrong when you say, I understand the power that I have. I understand who I am. I understand why I'm here. Here's what I want. Here's what I am doing. I understand my part. And I understand that there's a part that the universe, that infinite intelligence, that God must play in order for me to be able to live within the law. And I know these laws were created just for me to prosper, not for me to be afraid, not for me to make excuses, not for me to lay claim to things that don't give me abundance, joy, peace, bliss, and all of the emotions that I know I want to feel, right? So make sure you screenshot this. Like I said, I'll be sending it out. If you have not already done so, you can text hashtag affirm to 404-738-6301 and you will receive that. If you've already texted, you don't have to text again. You will get it. If you're on IG, you can text it to 404-738-6301. Please put the hashtag in front of it so that I know, so that you get my contact information back to save in your phone. Okay. You get my contact card. When you skip putting the pound sign on there or the hashtag sign, it doesn't give you my actual contact card to just click and save. So make sure you do that so you can click and lock me in. Okay. And then tonight, like I said, I will send this incantation out. And then you can fill in the blanks with whatever you want. Really quickly before you hop off, make sure you send love and life to somebody in this live stream. Okay. If you haven't shared this, make sure you do before you hop off. I know that some people watch these at 2 and 3 a.m. They're dropping comments and all kinds of stuff. And I think that's great. Even then, be sure to share it out because you never know who it will become divine, who it will be divine timing for. So make sure you share it out, even if you catch the replay, right? And you and just know that any information that is shared at this time, any information that is shared is timeless, right? So you can come back to this next month and you will learn something completely different from what has been shared. Okay. Um, and so she says, this is so needed. Love and light, Dr. A. You are so welcome. It is always a pleasure to share time and space with every single one of you. I get to do this kind of teaching at this time on the planet. And I am elated, just elated to be able to do so. So anytime I get to do that, I do not take it lightly. Thank you so much for sharing time and space with me, and love and light to you guys. Have an incredible, incredible evening. All right. Bye bye for now.